So I do some lecture. I would refer to them as mini lectures, just little pieces here and there. But in addition to that, we do lots of group work, and like we would have, it could be really short pieces of group work, maybe like a turn and talk, where I would give students a question or an issue, and I'd say, all right, turn to your neighbor and address this issue with them. And then as they were talking, I would circulate through the room and I'd listen to their conversations, and I would nudge them in different directions. I would pull more thoughts out of them. I'd ask them to provide some evidence. Where did you get that from? Tell me more about your thinking here. Say more about this. So there's that one-on-one sort of pair work, actually. I give my students a case study as a final, and there are 3 parts to it. So they create, the first part is that they create their own case, and this is in education. So to create the case, they are to draw from all of the material from the course and pick out one specific principle, theory, practice, and then build a case around it. And so I ask them to provide background to the case that kind of helps frame what we're going to see, to provide some goals for the case, so what the purpose of this particular case is going to be, and then they provide a really rich scenario. So this is where they tell the story of the case. And again, because this is education, these cases are focused on problems of teaching practice or problems of learning. And then at the end, they provide several appendices. So other pieces of student work, parent notes, assessment scores, anything like that, that helps the reader of the case get a fuller understanding of what the case is about. So that's the first part. And they work in groups of usually 3 to 4 to create the case. And then I ask them to create a video of the case. So this is a second representation of the hard copy that they put together. And then we post the video online. And the reason that we create the video and post it online is I want our students to start thinking about what they do in larger terms, beyond just what we do in the classroom. And as I've scrolled through some of the videos, some of them are getting some hits. People are looking at them, which is exactly what we anticipated or what we had hoped for. So that's the first part, the creation of the case. And then after each of the study groups creates a case, I take the cases and then I reorganize them. So this study group would get a case from a different study group. And so I ask them to analyze the cases. And when they analyze the cases, I ask them to draw from the material from the course. So using the course material, how would you address this case? And they don't just dig in to say what they would do. I ask them to provide some background. So I ask them first to identify the problem of teaching or learning practice that they see in the case, and then to defend that problem of practice based on evidence from the case. And then I ask them to identify some resources that they would use to address the problem of practice. And again, I ask them to defend their use of resources based on evidence from the case. And then they get into the fun part, which is actually analyzing the case. And this is where they explain what they would do to address this particular problem. And that's the really rich part. And they draw from course material to support what they would do. And I encourage them to draw from other courses. So one of the classes that I do this in is the pedagogy course. And so I encourage them to draw from their special ed courses, from their ed psych courses, from their content area literacy courses. And so I'm starting to encourage the students to realize that this isn't just a standalone course, that it's influenced, and it influences all the other courses that they're taking to prepare them to become teachers. So after they analyze the case, I ask them to identify some limitations, because nothing we do is perfect. I ask them to identify 2 to 3 limitations of the approach that they suggested. And then I ask them to provide a very brief conclusion. So just a quick summary and then a wrap up. So that's the second piece of the case study. And then there's a third piece. I ask the students to come prepared to present the process that they went through to analyze the case. So I don't ask them to share with us what they would do. I ask them to walk us through their thinking and their actions as they engaged in analyzing the case. So when they come to class on that day, they have a very brief presentation of the thought processes they went through. So I ask them to address questions like, what did you do first? How well did that work? What did you do next? Why did you do that? What problems arose? How did you address the problems? Was it effective? Was it not effective? And so they present that to us, and then as a class we get to ask them questions. And that's a really exciting part as well, because other class members have created a case that they're analyzing. So the other class members have an academic and a personal investment in what happens or how they would analyze that case. And those discussions are really rich. So those are the three pieces of the case study that I use in my classes. So that'd be another way that I guess, broaden my teaching repertoire in addition to lectures and pair work.